Hello everyone! Today I am sharing 3 foods I chose to explore that I viewed from the Disgusting Food Museum. So let's begin. Food number 1, durian. Durian is known as the king of tropical fruits or king of fruits. Durian is known for having a very distinctive smell. It's been described as rotten onions, sulfur, sewage, and even stinky feet. It has also been banned in Singapore's underground transportation and in many hotels across Southeast Asia due to its pungent odor. It is usually yellow or white, but can be red or green, and it has a hard, spiky exterior and a creamy custard-like texture inside when ripe. The seeds are edible if cooked, and there are many different varieties. Durian is a native of Southeast Asia. The fruit is grown in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, Singapore, Borneo, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. It can be grown in Hawaii, mostly on the Big Island, due to the tropical climate. It is also grown in Sri Lanka, South India, and Australia. However, durian can usually be shipped most places around the world. Durian is a highly nutrient-dense fruit full of all the B vitamins, fiber, and antioxidants. It also contains healthy fat, potassium, magnesium, and copper. And you'll see on the top right, there's some information about the protein, the fat, the fiber, and the calories. Durian grows from a tree in tropical climates that are humid and hot. Trees may grow up to 120 feet tall and produce fruit twice annually. The flowers are pollinated by bats, and the flowers are said to have the scent of sour milk. This fruit can grow up to 1 foot tall and 6 inches wide. It's a very large fruit. This fruit can be eaten fresh, frozen, canned, or dried. It may be served as a sweet or a savory dish. Durian can be paired with sticky rice and soup, smoothies, and even as ice cream or candy. Some of the health benefits of durian. Durian is believed to have many medicinal properties. In Asia, the extracts of the root and leaves of the fruit have been used to bring down fevers, treat inflammation and skin disorders, and to act as an anti-malarial. Many people believe this fruit may also aid in wound healing, have anti-cancer properties, is antibacterial, improves cardiovascular health, and may help with anxiety and depression, as well as insomnia. It is also thought to be an aphrodisiac. So there have been a lot of interesting studies on this tropical fruit that I find quite fascinating. There have also been studies on durian's effect to treat infertility in patients with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it's been shown to have anti-proliferative properties, just meaning it inhibits cell growth. More specifically, the interest is in malignant cells. Okay, so food number 2 is kopi luwak. Kopi luwak originated in Indonesia. Some of the areas this coffee is produced is in Bali, Sumatra, Java, and Sulawesi. However, it is also made in East Timor and the Philippines. It can be shipped and consumed worldwide, but it is very expensive and may not always be authentic. There are no necessary certifications at this point. It can cost anywhere from $340 to $2,400 per kilogram. Kopi luwak contains polyphenols, vitamin B2, and magnesium, and it provides antioxidants from phytonutrients, just like most coffee in general. Asian palm civets, which are part of or closest to the mongoose family, they consume coffee cherries, which are partially digested and then excreted. Their fecal matter is gathered, and the partially digested, beans are cleaned, dried, and prepared for roasting. It is then ground and brewed to enjoy. So the process during digestion alters the protein structure of the coffee cherries and extracts some of the acidity, which creates a less bitter and smoother cup of coffee. This allows it to be easier on the heart and the stomach. The antioxidants it provides can aid in preventing cell damage and may help reduce the risk of diabetes and cancer. I just found this to be a really interesting way to produce coffee, and wondered how this would even come about. What I've discovered is that around the 19th century, the coffee farmers who normally cannot drink their coffee, actually started to process and brew the beans collected from the civets feces. And then they secretly shared the information, with other farmers about Kapi Luwak. So it just continued to be collected and consumed. All right, for food number 3, I chose kalapache, sheep head and hooves. Kalapache is a soup made with the whole head of the sheep. So the brains, the eyeballs, ears, tongues, and hooves. This dish is served in Iran and Afghanistan traditionally. There are many variations that can be found in the Middle East and Southern Caucasus. This dish is full of protein and antioxidants. It contains coenzyme Q10, which acts as an antioxidant, playing a significant role in metabolism and preventing damage of cells. The tongue is rich in B vitamins. However, one thing to note is that the brain is very high in cholesterol, so it is advised to be consumed in small quantities and probably not by those who already have high cholesterol. Kalapache is a very heavy dish and is usually eaten at breakfast. It's said to bring energy, to energize one. So it's eaten at breakfast and sometimes lunch. The head and hooves are clean to remove the hair, and then they're boiled. It's made with carrots, onions, cloves, garlic, turmeric, and cinnamon, to name a few ingredients. And the dish is usually served with an orange or lemon, vegetables, and some type of bread. Kalapache may be served during certain celebrations or even mourning ceremonies after sacrificing the sheep. In regard to medicinal uses, this nutrient-dense soup is recommended to aid in the acceleration of fracture healing. So the value of learning about the food. There's great value in learning about different foods from other cultures. Foods may give us insight into people's traditions, beliefs, and history. Understanding the significance of a dish in another culture can create deep respect and make connections relationally. So specifically researching these 3 foods, I've discovered the nutritional value many provide and how they may be beneficial for some, but also harmful for others. I also greatly appreciated the labor and the love that goes into cultivating the durian and just the preparation of the kalapache. Lastly, it brought awareness. I learned that some practices in the production of Kapi Luwak are not sustainable and may even be inhumane. With the demand for this exotic Kapi Luwak and the price people are willing to pay, there are many concerns that the civets may be kept in cages in poor conditions and with inadequate food and water. So it's just something that I became aware of. As for renaming the museum, I thought it would be fitting, Misunderstood Meals Museum, Misunderstood Meals. And referring to just the foods that we've learned about, and in the disgusting Foods Museum. Referring to these foods as disgusting is inappropriate and can easily offend others. These meals may represent great significance in one's upbringing and rituals and traditions held dearly. There is often an emotional component with foods that may bring comfort. So stating that culturally different foods may be disgusting may come across as insensitive. So I felt that misunderstood could be possibly a better word. And just to end, I found a quote: "Food is not rational. Food is culture, habit, craving, and identity." This is by an American novelist, Jonathan Safran Foer. So thank you very much for listening.